How do you train for such an audacious race as the Marathon des Sables, which is a self-sufficient race across the Moroccan Sahara Desert, running 156 miles? That was my biggest question when I started researching this race. I found lots of information on race day, during the event, some athletes that had done some videos and postings, after the race, and I didn't find a lot of information on how these athletes were actually training their day-to-day. What were they doing? And I wanted to know that and know what I was up against and what would be required of me to take on that race and how I would need to train. So what I'm doing in these videos is trying to help future athletes by posting a lot of my training sessions and taking a look at what I'm doing to prepare for this race in 2022. I did hire a coach. I hired Elizabeth Barnes for numerous reasons. The biggest was her experience. And as many of you know, she's done the Marathon des Sables and won it several times. So I wanted her experience and her to be able to prepare me and get me to that start line injury-free and as best prepared as possible to take on that race, as well as some other reasons. I hired her coming off my hip surgery. I wanted somebody very experienced in injury prevention, which she's been absolutely tremendous, taking me from surgery. I went through surgery. I went through physical therapy. She took me from the end of physical therapy and started working with me. We slowly and gradually started training for the Marathon des Sables, as well as some other big events I have going on before that race. So it's been a really nice relationship working with her. She's made everything so easy and accessible. She's in Norway, I'm in the United States, and she sends me the links to connect. Her communication is superb. She keeps tabs on her athletes. She communicates several times a week. She watches the training and what we're doing and absorbs and takes in our feedback and makes any necessary adjustments. She's just been absolutely grand. I would not trade her for the world, and I think and feel and know she's my best option to get me to Morocco and through that race. Is it a guarantee? No, but it's the best possible option. As we all know, everything has to align race day, and that's a several day event. So we're dealing with totally different dynamics than just going out and running a marathon or, doing a one-day event, which no discredit to those. Those are challenging in and of themselves. And I have tremendous respect for all athletes, no matter what you're doing. But this Marathon des Sables is a totally different beast. I want to talk about yesterday's training. We're really starting to ramp up my training, and I'm in the middle of summer here, and this is my ideal critical time to be training and replicating that Marathon des Sables race in any way I can. I don't have the desert to train in. I don't have the mountains, which, I'm not sure you need mountainous atmosphere to prepare for that race. It's very different. The running's different. The preparation is different. The mindset is different. And I feel that it is extremely important that we simulate race day conditions as much as possible. So I want to talk about yesterday's training and what I'm doing to prepare for this race. My insight and perspective is coming from a seasoned Ironman athlete. I was in Ironman for about 8 years, and I did a lot of biking before that, endurance biking, century rides, which are 125 mile rides. I did Ragbri, which was a multi-stage event across Iowa, thousands and thousands of cyclists. So I do have a lot of experience, but I wanted, after spending so much time doing those things, I wanted a new challenge, something big, something bold, something grand, something spectacular, and the ultimate of all challenges. And I chose to feed that desire by taking on Marathon des Sables. So yesterday, being in the midst of summer here, I'm trying to simulate the Marathon des Sables race day conditions. Yesterday was a really tough training day for me. It was the hardest training day I have ever had, and it was the closest to Marathon des Sables race conditions. I learned so much yesterday. My coach had me on a 4-hour run, and the weather's nice here. It's blistering hot. I decided to pack up my cooler with all my hydration, and I packed a food bag, and I headed out to Maumee Bay Park, and I wanted to run the beach. Out there at Maumee Bay, which is about an hour from my house, well worth the drive. It's all open sun. You get no shade. It's got a very, very large hill to train on, and it's got several mid-size rollers to train on, which I thought would be ideal. So I headed out there and put my pack on, and I wanted to do a lot of sand running. I think they came in and loaded that beach with mounds of sand, because I was there about a month ago and it was pretty hard packed, and I'm like, all right, I think, the Sahara Desert's going to be more soft, squishy sand, but this is what I have to train on. Well, yesterday, I don't know if they brought more sand in, if the heat just heated everything up, but it was squishy sand. And I'm like, all right, we're going to run. It's a very long beach. And what was kind of nice is it looked like somebody had plowed like this ridge up all down the side, and it was perfect. So what I did was run the beach, and then I'd run that sand ridge over and over again. Then I went over to the big hill and did some laps on the big hill. Then I came back and found these moderate sized rollers and just kept going up and down them. Mind you, the whole time I'm in the hot, blistering sun. And I could feel my feet, the sand, which is why it's so critical to simulate race day conditions. Your body and your feet jostle around in that sand completely differently than they do when you're a road runner. It was a real eye-opener for me. So I learned several things: heat, feet, sand, and nutrition. My feet got numerous hot spots from training. The way my feet were jostling around in that sand, I felt them coming, and I had to stop several times to dump the sand out of my shoes. I wished I would have taken my gaiters. Now I completely understand why gaiters are needed in the Sahara Desert. Now I know. So that was a confirmation. Blister care, and when you feel these things coming on, immediate attention to that, whether it's tape wrapping or whatever your specific first aid of choice is to take care of your feet. I learned that and got confirmation on that. The sand is a totally different to run in. I started trying to do like a jog across this sand, and I'm like, okay. And I'm like, woo, this is tough. So I took a different approach. I'm like, I need a different strategy here. And what I chose to do was do more of a marching, a very fast-paced hike, brisk walk in a marching strategy. And I found that I was expending less energy and moving quite sufficiently through that sand. So I learned that yesterday and got confirmation on that. My nutrition, I need to work on that. You know, we eat a certain way and we get comfortable in certain training routines. And, you know, when you go out into a totally different environment, and specifically with the heat, everything changes. And this is why it's so important to dial it in and try different things and see what works for you. I couldn't eat. My stomach was working so hard, and I was working so hard, and my gut was grinding, and I just was not hungry. So I kept taking in my water and my Gatorade. I found being in that heat and that open sun, and there was also a real strong breeze and wind coming off Lake Erie. And that was a game changer, but that was good because, as we know, several times there have been sandstorms that have come through that Sahara Desert when the Marathon des Sables athletes were training. So I got that experience, the sun, the heat, the sand, the wind. It was ideal. So what I found is it was quite deceiving because the breeze, you felt like you were somewhat comfortable, but it was taking my my hydration, and I'm like, I kept craving water. And I tend to lean towards Gatorade a bit more, but yesterday being in that, I really wanted some water. So I learned that yesterday too about my training and being in the hot sand in the heat. And I also learned, you know, I run a lot here at Oak Openings, which is a lot of trail running and trees and shade and, you know, what have you. I can tell you, and this is my own personal opinion, if all you're doing is trail running, it's not going to best prepare you for the Marathon des Sables. Yesterday, being on that beach could not have been more ideal. So I wanted to share that with you, and looking at how we're training and what's working for us. I would recommend anybody wanting to take on that race to get out to very open sun and hot and sand and put your pack on. I wasn't fully loaded, but I had a decent amount of weight on me to work with and feel the effects. Get out there and simulate what it's going to be like on race day. You know, I came in after my 4-hour training day and I was exhausted. I'm like, holy wow. I had to sit a minute and just collect and rehydrate and take it all in. And I pulled my socks off and I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, this is what they're talking about. My socks were so full of sand and dust and dirt. My legs were covered in dusty sand. So I got my towelette out and I wiped down, just like we're gonna do in Marathon des Sables. You know, you don't get showers there, and it's not luxury. It's a race about survival. So I have my big wet towelettes and my wipes, and I broke out one of those and I just wiped down, and it was filthy. And I'm like, Okay, this is what I'm going to be needing to do every day when I come in off the desert. Okay, I can do this. This is doable. And today I took my same dirty socks that I wore yesterday and I put them back on my feet. And I thought, if we can't do it in training, it's certainly not going to be comfortable when we're out in the Sahara Desert. Now I know why those athletes talk about taking a change of socks. Obviously we can't carry 6 or 7 pairs, but I think it's important to get used to that uncomfortable feeling of putting dirty socks back on, because we take for granted, we go out for a training day, come in, throw our clothes in the laundry, wake up the next morning, showered, fresh, and go again. It's not going to be like that. Again, the importance of simulating race day conditions. Threw my dirty socks back on this morning. I'm like, oh, I don't like this. This is uncomfortable. Okay, this is reality. This is doable. And I'm practicing everything I need to be doing come race day, which has been tremendous. Yesterday was the best training day I have ever had. It was the toughest, the hardest, but the best day. So that's what's working for me. And so far, into my training, I think Elizabeth got me 1st of February or March and started working with me. And this is where we've kind of progressed to. I have done a marathon already. I did the Glass City Marathon, which went really well. I had to use a little bit different strategy on that, a walk run, just because of my hip surgery. But to even be running this soon again, I'm not even a year post hip surgery, which was a pretty serious surgery. I'm doing it. So I just want you people to know, don't be afraid to take on those dreams you have. I'm 59 years old. When I do the Marathon des Sables, I'll be 60. Whatever you set your mind to, you can do. You have got to have the want and the desire. And like my coach told me, which is another benefit of having a coach, they have an objective view and they can see things that we typically can't. I said, do you think I'll be ready for this race next year in 2022? She goes, without a doubt. She goes, your mindset is already there. She goes, I know how stubborn you are. She goes, you're going to be ready. And to hear that made me feel so good. It's like, that's why we have coaches. And, I know everybody can't afford a coach, and I understand, but if you're going to take on something of this magnitude, I feel a coach is so highly beneficial to just give you feedback and help you and tell you the things you're doing right and doing wrong and knowing when to hold you back. Another example, Elizabeth was watching my training and I'm like, we kind of started stepping it up, coming out of the cold, coming off the physical therapy, getting back into running. And, we started doing some speed training. I started doing a lot of hill work, big hill work. And I'm like, gosh, I'm feeling fatigued. I don't understand. I'm trying to dial in my nutrition and work with different things. I'm like, what's causing this fatigue? And so what she did, she was bright enough to pick up on that, and she dialed back my training for a week. She lightened my load completely, which I would have kept grinding and going and going and going, because that's what I'm trained to do. That's what I like to do. That's what I know how to do. But that's why we hire a coach, to be able to see things that we sometimes can't. And she caught that and picked up on it and dialed me back, and for a week. And then here we are, we picked up and we're going again, which was an ideal call, and it worked really well for me. But I just wanted to share this and put a posting out there. And do your research when you think there's something you might want to do, and just know that anything you set your mind to is doable. You've got to work hard. It's uncomfortable. It's not always easy. You have to sacrifice a lot. I don't go out and go to parties. I don't socialize a lot. Training is my life. But when you're taking on an event of this magnitude, it's got to be that way. I do keep my family events of high importance, and I do attend those and work my training around my family events, and my family understands what I'm training for. So they're very, very supportive of what I'm doing. I do work. I do own a construction company. My husband and I own the company. We've had it for nearly 20 years. And he runs the field. I run the business and the company. And we do a lot of work for the major oil industry, oil jobbers, industrial clients. We do very little residential. We do some, but not a lot. So we're a civil concrete contractor and a petroleum contractor. We install the underground fuel tanks, do all the piping, set the dispensers, backfill, do the concrete, purge the systems, and get the service stations going. We go into terminals and refineries, and we do a tremendous amount of concrete work, stoning, and grading. So that's kind of what I do in my background and where I'm coming from. But I'm going to bring this to a close now. I wanted to share yesterday's training with you because it was highly informative and pretty spectacular. So I will be doing more postings and letting you know how I'm training. I wanted to put this out there and say thank you, Marathon des Sables, for putting that event on there. I'm training hard and looking forward to coming to your country and doing your race. You all have a great day. Take care. Thank you.